Well, for the last few weeks, we've been hinting that there may be a change coming. So we're going to go through all of that today. Also, we're sorry we missed last week, but we had the RV Unplugged rally and it absolutely consumed both of us. So hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Congratulations to Chris and Aaron from Irene Iron Travels for winning the whole thing. Wish it was me. But it wasn't. So we're going to hit the road. We're running down to the stockyards for a few things, and we're going to update you on what we're thinking as a possible rig switch.
There you go. Alright, so a couple of things to start with. First of all, this is absolutely not a knock on our Solitude, and you'll find out why. And secondly, I feel like the rig we picked when we first started this was the right rig at that time. But we've learned a lot since then, and I think that's the bigger thing that's kind of instigating this change.
And just from my perspective, we love our Grand Design Solitude 390. It's an amazing rig. We figured out real quickly how we're going to actually live in it and how we camp, that we needed something a little bit differently, unfortunately. And it's actually kind of sad to watch this rig go, because this is the rig we picked. We've been very happy with it. But like we said, sometimes your needs change, and we realized that we need something with a slightly different setup.
All right, so what are the things that we're trying to address? First of all, ever since my dad passed away, we and Mom would like for Mom to be able to come with us. And we kind of thought that with the fold-out couch in the 390, that would be okay. And as it turns out, that's really not ideal for having that many people and dogs in that kind of a space. So we would really appreciate a dedicated space for Mom to be able to stay and to come with us on a lot more things. Number 2, the horse shows. Ryan discovered really quickly that your feet aren't the best mode of transportation a lot of the times. And so either we're trying to drive the trucks back and forth or pedaling my little Flintstone bike back and forth, and we could really use something with a motor. Golf cart, scooter, e-bike even, something of that sort.
And I know what you're saying, get an e-bike, get a scooter, get all those things. And we want to do those things. The problem at the horse shows is that we sometimes have, hey, we have to move, and Lauren has a lot of equipment, and a golf cart with the 2 seats in the back that folds down into a bed could be pretty useful, because we could throw a couple of bales of hay on there and do some other things. So it would actually help, and trust me, we want scooters too.
And on that note, you're like, well, just toss scooters in there. Come on, you have all the space. True, but we don't have the weight capacity. And that's something we're not willing to sacrifice, is the safety on that end of things. All right, so those 2 things. And then number 3, we learned we travel very hard. We have long travel days, and we want to do Alaska, and we don't think that our rig is the best rig to be doing something of that nature. So with the goals we have and the travel style we have, I just don't think that the rig we have matches that. And you know, that's okay. We didn't know that at the get-go.
And we could retrofit our rig to do Alaska, but the other thing about a 390 is that there's not a lot of cargo capacity. We were able to achieve the things we wanted to achieve with it, but we can't do any more. Because Lauren mentioned we travel so hard, we really want to minimize the amount of slides we have and be able to kind of pack up and go a little bit faster. With 5 total slides and a rear end kitchen that has a tendency to move a little bit more, we have to do a lot of due diligence to make sure nothing breaks or shifts. And even in that scenario, it can still happen. And that's just one of the repercussions of having a lot of room and having a big rear kitchen. So it's a give and take. Great for us initially, now it's time to move on. So
I do want to say one thing. When we bought our 390, we went from the ranch and a house and acreage and everything into an RV. And I definitely say mission accomplished, that we downsized, we had the residential conveniences and creature comforts, and we didn't kill each other in our first year of RVing. So raging success on that.
Bing. So if it's not obvious by all the things we just said, we are considering switching to a toy hauler. Now, what toy hauler? We have no idea. We've narrowed it down a little bit, but we've really just kind of started thinking about it. You know, recently we were at the Florida RV Super Show in Tampa, and that's where this conversation essentially stems from. So we are considering a toy hauler. We have narrowed down to a handful of brands that we'll talk about in a second, but the big reason why is that we feel like it'll offer us more flexibility, more cargo carrying capacity, and overall a better experience for us on the road. I think what's important to also understand is that, especially living in an RV, things change much quicker than in a house. Not just what's outside your window, but potentially the window itself. And you have to be okay with change in a little more way, which is something I'm learning to cope with.
And also, there's no such thing as perfect. You are never going to find the perfect RV, but you can find what's perfect for your situation. So as your situation changes, maybe this changes too.
So back when we first started the RVing side of this channel, we took you along for the sale of the house as well as the purchasing. Well, we didn't know how much to record, and in retrospect, we wish we had recorded more of that. So as we go through this search and buying process again, we want to make sure we take you along. So, one of the first things we learned about was not just picking an RV and a floor plan that works best for you, but also understanding the dealership you're buying it from, the manufacturer you're buying from. So, over the next month or two, we're going to take you along for all of those things. We're going to do research. We're going to do our due diligence on manufacturers again. So one of the things we love so much about the RV community is actually doing what we're doing right now. And I know we're talking about, switching rigs, but we're also meeting some people we met through Phil and Stacy's Today is Someday crew that we met through Discord. So we're having lunch at Los Vaqueros, which is a staple in the Fort Worth stockyards. Let's talk a little bit about the things we are looking for.
That's right. So we've hit on the things about our current rig that don't quite mesh with what we need, the things we do want. The no floor vents idea was super. We hit the nail on the head with that, and we plan to continue that. So the new rig still needs to keep with the no floor vents for the dogs. The second thing, we'd really like 3 axles. It increases our weight capacity and a few other necessity things that, in our book at least. 3, obviously the toy hauler space, having the space for mom, the space for the golf cart, all that sort of stuff.
And realistically, that's going to be a flex space because I intend on turning it into an office, a little bit of storage, as well as some area for the dogs to be.
Of course. So those are kind of the main things. Anything else you can think of?
For me, the towability. We really love our 390, but it is a very heavy in the back end rig because it's got a kitchen. Now, that's not the end of the world. But for us, because we have tendency to drive pretty hard, I'd like something that has a little easier of a tow.
There you go. So those are kind of the things that we are looking for. We learned we can get away with a little bit less in the kitchen and the bathroom than we thought.
Yep.
And the washer dryer, I guess that's another good point. We will still have the washer and dryer on board, but at least with the toy hauler, we can put that in a few different places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to go inside and have some lunch. Mexican food, and we did the same thing. That's never a good thing. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about kind of our preliminary search and where our first thoughts are, and
go from there.
2 hours later.
Well, after a very filling Mexican lunch, a big thanks to Eva and TC from the Someday crew for meeting us. It was good to see you guys. But that brings up another good point, and something for us is, nowadays with manufacturers, you're getting kind of like a built-in community.
That's right.
There's a bunch of other communities out there you can join, like, I don't know, maybe ours soon. And obviously other channels and different things, escapers, escapees, so on and so forth. But the manufacturers, like we have a Grand Design now, and Grand Design's done a phenomenal job at doing their own rallies and all of that kind of stuff. So, kind of the last thing we want to talk about with what we're looking for in our RV is actually what we want from a manufacturer.
Right, and thus the community that's involved with that.
Plus, obviously, good customer service, attentiveness, listening to owners.
Right.
So on and so forth.
All right, so now that we have an idea on what we want out of the next rig, we have been talking about this for a while. We've actually kind of narrowed it down to about 3 different brands. We haven't narrowed down a floor plan, but we have narrowed it down into brands. first up, we stick with what we know, Grand Design. Yes, our rig had issues, but yes, they stepped in and helped us. And as long as we purchased the next rig outside of the state of Texas, I think a lot of the obstacles that we encountered, we may not face the next time. So that's certainly an option. We know them, we know what we're getting into. They have a good community. They have the SRTs that come to different places. You can get stuff done at rallies. And a lot of their community already knows us. So that's a bonus there. Number 2, the new kids on the block that we can't get out of our heads since Tampa, Brinkley. Gorgeous rig, love the aesthetic of it. We don't know as far as like quality or longevity, and we don't know what their community is going to be like because they just don't have it yet. But you can't leave them out of the mix, that's for sure.
So the third manufacturer we're considering is actually Alliance RV. And a big reason why, and no, it's not just because of Chris and Martha and the people we know that have alliances, although they are pushing pretty hard that way, is actually when we thought we might be doing this when we were back in Tampa, when we started to think through the idea of having a toy hauler, we started paying attention to how the manufacturer, actual representatives or ownership groups were talking to people, how they were involving people. And by far, out of all the ones that we looked at, with the exception of maybe Brinkley, you saw the Brady brothers, you saw Rob Boyer, you saw Bill Martin, their upper management team interacting with everybody all the time. And that really kind of stood out for us. Plus, we've heard a lot of really good stories about how Alliance's customer service works with their current owners to try and reconcile any issues that they have, and then the extents they go to try to get those reconciled. So reminded us a lot of what we thought we were getting with Grand Design. And Grand Designs is still good. It's still one of the best in the industry. But I think they might be possibly beaten out by Alliance. Now, also with the Alliance side, you're going to get that built-in community as well, because they already are doing the national rally just like Grand Design does, as well as smaller regional rallies, again, like Grand Design does. And hopefully Brinkley will follow suit with all that. But that also brings up a really good point when you're purchasing a rig. And we're going to shoot a whole buying guide at some point throughout this process to kind of give you our insights on that. But one thing you can do is you can actually go to the national rallies as a non-owner. At least you can with Alliance. And so I may just do that. I may go up to Indiana for a few days for the national rally and just ask people what they think. Again, see some of the new floor plans, maybe do a factory tour. So who knows? All right, well, that's pretty much the 3 brands that we're looking at and models as we go. So.
Yeah, like we said, we haven't quite narrowed it down into a floor plan. We'll be working on that next. Leave us your comments, kind of your questions, your concerns, suggestions as we go about that.
Well, and of those 3 manufacturers, why should we pick a Grand Design, an Alliance, or a Brinkley? Give us your thoughts. We want to hear feedback from you guys.
Is there something we haven't considered? Now, all that being said, if you are interested in purchasing our rig, make sure to shoot us a message and let us know. Obviously, you know everything she's been through and how we've taken care of it.
With all that being said, too, we do fully intend on selling her with the full solar system, extra TV, and all the little things like the Gen Y hitch and all the little upgrades.
Washer, dryer.
Yep, all the little things that we've included on board the rig. So
that's right.
Oh, we're not sure when that day is going to be, but until then, we look forward to seeing you next week and taking along the adventure of, well, looking at more rigs.
I feel like we just got done with this. Here we are again.
Magic.
That's okay.
So, with all that being said, we'll see you next weekend.
All right. Bye, Mom.